Hey everybody, Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady here with my co-host JC. Hey JC, what's up?
Wendy, I'm just getting over a migraine, but it's from good things. It really is. I have to overshare. Do you mind?
Go for it.
Well, I started doing a lot of reading online. And as you know, I know too, everything on the internet's true. Joking, right? I mean, it really pays to find good articles, though. It pays to find good reads and good statistics. And on these programs, I, as you know, do a lot of reading on stats and information that's out there. And recently, I was extremely intrigued by reading up on trust and respect, which also led me down a path of learning a little bit about clarity as well. I came across some stats. I need to share these with you. Quote, in 2022, a record 50.6 million U.S. workers quit their jobs. This was the highest ever recorded since 2001. And the trend continued on a smaller scale in 2023 with the annual U.S. quit rate at 2.5%, which then that stat led me back into the thought process of trust, respect, and clarity being the three ingredients that American managers need. Let that be to help them in recruiting or retaining talent. So I go ahead, I read this entire article, I delve into the stats, I'm cross-referencing, and lo and behold, Wendy Sellers, it was your article I was reading. How crazy is that?
I was just interviewed by International Business Times, and they published an article on, my thoughts about trust, respect, and clarity. And, I talk a lot about retaining and recruiting individuals and that it's hard. We've talked about it a lot on this show, that it is super hard, the hardest time ever to attract people, never mind retain them. You might be able to attract them, get them on the payroll, but somebody else is trying to do the same thing. And so they might take them away from you as well. So yeah, it is amazing. I caution anybody who is listening, don't be listening to all those naysayers on the internet that are saying, oh, employers are in charge again, and we're going to force everybody to come back to work, and they have no choice. Nobody else is hiring, because there are a lot of companies still hiring. And on top of that, most people, not all, but definitely the younger generations, which are the, great big part of the workforce, they will only work for companies that they trust and respect and who show them trust and respect. And that starts with transparency and clarity of, hey, what is the role that I'm interviewing for? Remember those days, it actually wasn't too long ago, where it'd be like 3 or 4 sentences on a job ad and everybody would apply. And now we're like, no, I'm going to need a little bit more clarity than that. Like, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to do it? At home, in person? What are the hours? What are the benefits? What is the compensation? And how will I progress in my career? So things have certainly changed since I'll just say pre-COVID.
It's kind of crazy, too, when you start to think about a supportive versus unsupportive work environment. And just to kind of break this down and go down a rabbit hole, stay with me if you don't mind real quick here. I'm heading somewhere, I promise. When we remember back to maybe our first jobs, for some of us, that supervisor, manager, I'm not going to say leader, but the person who was in charge at the time, they may have been smoking their cigar in their office or accidentally put it out on your arm. I mean, good times, right? They're drinking their whiskey midday and listening to, Dio on the radio, whatever it is, right? Some of those old mindsets carried forward and some of those old mindsets stayed in place. And you may have been talented and skilled and had a lot to bring to the table and had trending talents that quickly got pushed to the back burner. You were maybe told time and time again, it can work that way here, but you have to pay your dues first. You have to come up through this first. You basically had to become indoctrinated into an environment that was toxic and then fall in line, shut your mouth, and then maybe 20 years from now, it's different. And depending on your generation, what other option did you have to do other than suck it up, buttercup, right? Yeah. But nowadays, younger workers, they're not tolerating unsupportive workplaces. Untrained employees, though, are still being promoted into managerial positions with little or no training. People are reaching these pinnacles within their career, let it be finally making it to what they deem the pinnacle, the frozen middle, wanting to enact change, looking to make change, and the only thing that they know is the toxic culture of which they grew up in, and they're not familiar with supportive workplace needs or actually getting in touch with the human aspect of an individual. Different forms of leadership, of course, but this style that we see that is the catalyst for a future generation of a workforce coming up and in is actually also creating a workplace that's radically different than what we remembered before. Now, that quote that I talked about, untrained employees still being promoted, that too was a quote from your article, Wendy. I couldn't help but pin in on that. Could you talk to me about that point in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, and thank you for bringing up the generational differences as well. The interesting thing is just in my daily life, everybody knows me as the HR lady. So if I'm out at a dog park or whatever, people be like, hey, I have a question to ask. And I have found that Gen Z, Gen Y, and even some of Gen X as well right now are saying, no, I'm not taking a management role unless you plan on giving me very specific training or opportunities and the time for the training. No, I'm not taking a management role if it's only X, dollars more than the other role because you expect me to do more, whether it's time or just, stress, but you're not paying me more. So I do find that in the past, people would just take any promotion, whether it's supervisory or not, just to get more money. But what we are finding, and this isn't something new, this doesn't necessarily just have to do with the pandemic, is if you're desperate, you as a company are desperate and you hire, you promote Wendy over here to XYZ position. Let's just say it's a management position, but you forget to give her training. She is going to be walking out and taking the employees with her because you promoted her because of her great communication, her great relationships. But now that person is there in the new role, maybe making more money and miserable. And they don't want to leave their employees behind. So when they go and interview for another role, they're taking their employees with them as well. So number one, no longer is winging it an option for promoting people to any other role, but definitely not to a supervisor or a management role. Winging it is just 100% not an option at all. You really need to be stopping and saying, I need clarity. In fact, JC, how about this? I just wrote a list, an article, I guess you can call it, but it's a list of signs your culture rocks. And I'm going to go over it real quick with you because a lot of these things are in the conversation, in the question that you just gave me. So number one sign that your culture rocks is respect. People are treating each other with respect up and down the org chart, across the org chart, no matter how long they've been there, what their role is, what they get paid. It doesn't matter. Number two, clarity. So important. Roles need to be crystal clear to everyone involved. Everybody that works in an organization needs to know their purpose. They are not happy with wandering around like a lost puppy, even though that might be fun. That is definitely not engaging and respectful. Most people want, a little bit of spice in their workplace too. Not everybody. It depends on your personality styles, but they definitely want challenge. You don't have to make everything so super exciting every day, but most people want to learn something in their job, go home and say, hey, I learned something new today. Not only did I learn it, it's now part of my brain and I own it and I could possibly teach somebody else.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, JC, about learning new things?
Learning new things, new ideas, huge fan of it, especially in the workplace when we're thinking about feedback and feedback loops. They're so critical. And feedback very specifically when we're talking about people that are in managerial roles or even new to those managerial positions, or even if we're looking at our overall business structure, feedback from frontline workers is ultimately extremely critical for your workplace improvement. It not only offers invaluable insights into operational challenges, but it's going to reveal a lot about your customer interactions and your process inefficiencies. So by actively seeking and incorporating feedback, effectively obtaining these new ideas, you can then ultimately streamline your workflows.
Yeah, it's so important to be giving feedback and to be getting feedback. So I have to say it. I'll say it bluntly. And you all know me. I'm pretty blunt and direct. Is shut up and listen. You want to be a leader? Shut up and listen. Ask your employees, ask your team members, ask your coworkers for feedback. And even though it might be hurtful, not everybody's trained in communicating in a respectful manner. Hopefully, they will at least try. Even though the feedback might be hurtful to you at that moment, really saying, okay, what did they really mean by this? What are the facts here? And if the facts are wrong or the information they're giving you is not actually factual, then go ahead and correct them on that, possibly in private, depending on the situation. But learning and getting feedback and making sure that when you're in these casual conversations and you go, yeah, and you promise somebody something, don't break that promise. Don't break that trust, because integrity is so, so important. It goes right along with the trust, the respect, and the clarity that I was talking about. You look like you want to say something.
I'm dying to. And when people have opposing viewpoints, if there's something that feels aggressive, if there's a misunderstanding of tone or whatever, change your mindset. Change your mindset. Think about that new idea that's coming to you. Think of it as an opportunity for creativity. Think of what the person is saying as something that's going to challenge you to look for that new path or new branch in the road. Capitalize on those opportunities in your mindset. I don't know. That just a couple thoughts. You also talked a little bit in your 12 signs there, your 12 points about profit, though, too, right, Wendy?
Yeah, in my list of 12 signs your culture rocks, I do talk about profit, because let's face it, even if you're a non-for-profit or you work for the government, like, there's a budget and there's something that keeps us running. And if we go over the budget, or with the sales side, if we come under the budget, well, then somebody's going to be losing a job, and it's probably going to be a lot of people, and that's not going to be very healthy at all. So a healthy culture, it's not just about, oh, everybody's so nice here, everybody lets me do what I want. That's not healthy. Nice is good. Doing what you want, not necessarily good. We have to make sure, again, we're here for a reason. This is your role. I'm going to clarify it. But just so everybody knows, we have got to keep the Benjamins flowing, and employees need to understand this. Employees, if they don't understand budget a little bit, hey, these are our goals. Here's where we're at. Here's where the losses are. Here's where the wins are. If they don't understand that, even just a little bit of high level, then why would they care? Get them to care by teaching them something. That's where the learning comes in. Not everybody's going to want to dive in and be like, hey, I want to work in the finance department. But, you can't, it's going to be hard to share the good news about profit or revenue or savings if they didn't know about it in the beginning. So I do encourage everyone who's listening to check out my 12 signs your culture rocks. I will put the website link in the podcast description. Otherwise, it's on my website, thehrlady.com. And I'll also make sure you have access to the article that I was interviewed in for International Business Times. And last year I was actually in an article from USA Today. So, I'm honored and happy to continue helping everybody. A lot of this stuff is free, folks. You just got to listen and do it.
I'm just waiting for the opportunity to see on the actual Today show at this point. You're on the move, Wendy.
Yeah, I am traveling a lot the next couple of weeks, doing trainings all over the country and speaking at conferences. I can't help myself. I just love to help other people. And so if anybody does need my help, just reach out. I just did a training the other day, and some random stranger just messaged me and said, hey, I need more information. And I had to stop what I was doing and help them. And I'm like, I didn't even get paid for that. That was a freebie. We're all in this together. Please make sure that you are focusing on your company and your culture, making sure that everybody's voice is heard, and understanding the signs of how other people say your culture rocks, because as business owners and entrepreneurs, we think we're the best. But we're not always the best one to be grabbing that mirror and going, I might be part of the problem. With that said, thanks for joining us. Take care, everybody.